Good evening, Baruchim Habayim Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night's class. Tonight, the class is Lichvod, I don't know, and Leilui Nishmat, and the way you could say Leilui Nishmat, even though it was a great tzaddik, is we quoted in the past from the Al Shicha Kadosh in Megillat Esther. The Al Shicha Kadosh says that in the Purim season, when we give Machzit HaShekel Matanot LeEvyonim, we do one Leilui Nishmat Moshe Rabbeinu and the other one Leilui Nishmat Mordechai and Esther. So obviously, if the Al Shicha Kadosh says that you could do those things, Leilui Nishmat Tzadikim like that, Moshe Rabbeinu and Mordechai and Esther, so on any tzaddik you're allowed to say Leilui Nishmat. So today was the Yomadi Ilulav of the great tzaddik Rabbeinu Chaim ben Atad or Chaim HaKadosh Zchuto Yagen Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Amen. So tonight's shiur is Lichvod Leilui Nishmat or Chaim HaKadosh. I'm going to try and blend a few things together. I want to begin by saying a good word from Reb Chaim Brisk itself. Reb Chaim Brisk makes an observation in the beginning of the parasha and the pasuk. Vayar Balak ben Sipor et kol asher asa Yisrael le'emori. Balak ben Sipor saw everything that God did to the Emorim. Vayomer Moav el ziknei Midyan ata yelachechu hakahal kol svivotenu, and the pasuk goes on. And then the pasuk says in pasuk Dalid, Balak ben Sipor melech leMoav ba'et ahi. Balak ben Sipor was the king of Moav during that time. So I have a little bit of an obvious question. It's not mine. Reb Chaim Brisk asked this question. He said when the Torah begins in pasuk Aleph, it says Vayah Balak ben Sipor. It just says Balak ben Sipor. In pasuk Daled, the Torah says it was Balak ben Sipor who was the king of Moab. If he was the king of Moab, we should have said it right at the beginning and goodbye. You give somebody his title round one, not later on. And if it's not important to know that he was the king of Moab, so why in pasuk Daled suddenly they woke up to say that he's the king of Moab? Here's Reb Chaim Brisk's question, and Reb Chaim answers a very sharp answer that's so practical for today. I don't know if any of you have been following Israeli news in the past 2 weeks, but again, this nonsense with the yeshiva boys going to the military started. Because as Yair Lapid goes down in the polls, he thinks that by instigating anti-religious agendas, he's going to get more votes. That's pretty much my analysis of the situation. So now they want to pass a law that's going to decide how many people can learn in yeshiva and how many people have to go to the army. I don't know what they're high on in the Knesset, but whatever they're getting is very expensive goods to think of such a stupid idea. The only thing that keeps them a Jewish state, the only zeichet to a Jewish state, is 150,000, 170,000 Bli Anat Ken Yirbu yeshiva boys to learn Torah. Without that, there's no zeichet to it anymore. And so, exactly those are the ones that now every couple of years, another agenda, and it's always, pre-election season. A year before elections, we got to start in order to get votes. You know what's the unfortunate thing? That as they do this, they become more popular, these candidates. And they go up in the polls, and that's why they do it. They instigate against yeshiva boys, and they call them parasites. Hashem should forgive us for even quoting them. Parasites? I'll tell you, I've visited many military bases over the years in Israel to speak. I'm one of the few Orthodox Jews that's allowed to speak in Israeli military bases. In general, they're not so fond of that idea. And always the first question is, why don't yeshiva boys serve in the army? So maybe we should address this for once and for all, as American Jews, so we should understand the importance of not falling into the trap of what the media wants us to hear. First of all, the Haredi Jews today in Israel are over 1 million people. They're about 1.1 million people. Out of them, the yeshiva population, unfortunately, is only 160,000. The rest of them are either out working, or too young to serve, or too old to serve, or have other medical conditions and things that eliminate them from serving. So we're talking about 12% of the population, and out of that, they're making a scene. Now let's talk about how many secular Jews in Israel don't serve in the army. All sports players. Did you know that? They don't. If you're a sports player, you're nullified from military service. If you're a professional sports player. All actors and actresses, all singers, and the list goes on and on and on. If you're a person of arts, culture, Or if you have idealistic reasons why you don't want to serve in the army. That means if you're a left-wing lunatic who loves Muslims and hates Jews, and unfortunately many self-hating Jews like that, liberals they call themselves. They call themselves liberals. We have to call an ace and a spade a spade. They go and they fill out this form saying that they can't protect occupied territories, like that prince or whatever his name was that was in Israel this week, Yimach Shemo Zichro, from England, who called East Jerusalem that he's going to visit the occupied territories. Maybe the United Kingdom is occupied territories. We should start over there and figure that one out first, before we talk about Jerusalem that we have a 3,300 year history in. But that's what's going on. Why are all these people doing this? But distort history, distort the way the Jewish nation always was, change the facts. In this specific case, the military doesn't need them. Can you imagine that even 20,000 yeshiva boys went to the army this year? What in the world is Tzahal going to do with them? At 5:30 in the morning, they're going to wake them up, and now they got to get ready, and they're going to say, wait, Zman Krishma, we have to daven Shachris. And the Hasidim are going to need a mikveh also. And then they're going to have to eat something before they can go out to training. It's not badatz, they can't eat. And then we have to take meiser also on it, just in case, trumas or meisers. And then, what are they going to do with them? There's nothing to do with them. And then imagine in the middle of training, they're on some big training mission. Mincha, shkia. Stop, that's it. Land the fighter jet, we got to have mincha now. And then Ma'ariv, Rabbeinu Tamzman. And that, got nothing to do with them. It's not a fit. So besides that, it makes no sense. It's obviously just an agenda for political reasons because it sounds good. This Yair Lapid, who, I don't know if his neshama comes from the Jewish nation at all, because I don't believe a Jew could behave this way. This guy has never served in the army himself. He served as a reporter for a military news outlet. That was his army service, and some other jobnik job. And he's the one, like, practice what you preach. What about your military service? It's not ay. Okay, but why is he doing it? He's not a stupid man. He's actually shrewd. He's a shrewd politician, and he was a shrewd news reporter to get votes. Where did he get this idea from? Where do all these people get this idea from? Fight the Orthodox Jews, and it's going to make you famous. You know where they get it from? It's a Chazal. It's a Gemara Masechet Gittin, Daf Nun Vav Amud Bet. Chazal HaKadoshim write, Kol HaMetzer LiYisrael Na'aseh Rosh. Whoever causes trouble to the Jews becomes famous, more powerful. Whoever causes trouble to Bnei Torah, Kal Vachomer, becomes more famous and more powerful. We learn it from a pasuk, Hayu Tzarea Lerosh. Those who caused trouble to Am Yisrael, they became bigger, better, and stronger. That's what they became. You know, in the United Kingdom, so the prince calls East Jerusalem occupied territories. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Magdim Refuah LaMachala. He makes the medicine before the sickness. So he already occupied London with Muslims before he was able to say about East Jerusalem occupied territories. He showed him, have a taste of your own medicine before you talk stuff. But based on this, Reb Chaim Brisker says an unbelievable thing. He says, really, Balak wasn't the king of Moab. He wasn't. Just then he came to the people of Moab, and he started talking bad about the Jews. They're going to cause us trouble, and they're going to destroy us, and this, and don't ask. Now that he had an agenda against the Jews, you're a good politician, let's make you the king. Meaning his whole credibility was his fight against Am Yisrael. That was his whole credibility. His whole credibility was the fact that he had a fight against Am Yisrael. So only after he said, the Psukim say what he said, that Atay Lachechu, now they're going to cause us trouble and so on, then the Pasuk says, Balak became Melech Moab. Now we already title him a Melech Moab. Suddenly he became the king. You have an agenda, now you can be the king. Unbelievable. American politics is not much better, by the way. This is the way politics works. You have to be against something, pro about nothing, and somehow you get elected. At that point, it's an amazing thing. And all in the name of democracy. One of the insanities behind democracy is we vote in people that don't know anything about their job based on random stuff. There are tons and tons of surveys of political analysts in different elections based on what caused who to decide to vote for who. So for example, when Bill Clinton was elected, so the first time, so there was many studies that were done that the majority of the people that voted for Bill Clinton were females. And when I asked them why'd they vote for him, they said because they thought he was good looking. You're going to vote somebody who's going to affect your whole life and the country and your economy and your taxes and everything else. Oh, but that's all in the name of democracy. Sugar. Simply even sugar. It's but that's what happens when you don't think. That's what happens when you don't think. So the Torah tells you in advance. Be aware. Don't be surprised. It's going to be over and over in history again. Any person's going to come and say a few bad things about the Orthodox Jewry. Suddenly, ayut tzarei al rosh. Those who cause tzarot, they're going to come into power. They're going to have power. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do it that way? There's many discussions in Chazal. One of the reasons is, especially by the Muslims, is the fact that they have a schut of the Brit Milah that they did, and Hashem wants to pay them off before Mashiach comes. So therefore, they have a certain control over Israel and whatever over Mashiach comes. That's what it says in the Zohar. But because they didn't do the mitzvah of Milah properly, they only did Milah without Priyah, so therefore they only have control until Mashiach comes, but after that, they lose their control already. That's what the Zohar Kadosh writes about that. But you have to understand what was Moab's case against the Jews. Ata yelachechu hakahal et kol svivotenu kilchoch hashor et yerek hasadeh. He gives some example of an ox eating grass. And he says, just like an ox eats grass, now somehow the Jews are going to take our whole surroundings over. What does one have to do with the other? Second of all, if you wanted to make the Jews the bad guys and make it sound scary and dramatic and whatever, so you should have said they're going to come like lions and eat us, or I don't know what, or murderers and kill us. An ox eating grass, that's the big problem. That's the terrible thing. And that's what got him to be a melech. That's what got him to be a king. These are not my questions. Sfarim HaKadoshim asked this. In the Sefer HaKadosh, Anechmadim Mizahav, from a rabbi who's still alive, Rabbi Yisrael Dandanovich, he brings this question down. And there are others that bring the question down as well. Unbelievable. So they say an interesting answer. They say a very interesting answer. Then we have to ask another question. Lichora, the whole case that Balak came to the people with makes no sense. Because God told Moshe Rabbeinu clearly, it's in Devarim Perek Bet Pasuk Tet, Al tetzeret Moav v'al gar ba milchama, that the Jews don't have a right to fight Moab, meaning to conquer Moab. Because we owe them whatever it is, however you want to view it. But there's a clear commandment from God not to fight with Moab. So he's coming to the people of Moab and he's telling them the Jews are going to take us over. When clearly the Torah says that they can't take you over. So he doesn't even have a case. It's against their religion. It's against their religion. Lehavdil elef alfei avdalot ben atuma latara. I want to tell you a cute episode that I had. I was in Philadelphia airport and I was standing online for TSA, and there was a gentleman in front of me who later on I found out was a Muslim. And I'm not saying this to generalize about all Muslims and whatever, today you got to be a little careful with them. But happened to be he was a Muslim. But now listen to this. I'm next online, he's one in front of me. He goes through this detector, and I'm waiting, and I'm going to be called in next and go through. And he tells the person on the other side, that guy is trouble. You might want to check him. This is what he tells the guy, and I hear it. It's not like he even says it in his ear. That guy is trouble. You might want to check him. And the TSA officer, who was an African-American man, very dignified, nice person, turns to this gentleman and says, Do you have a reason, a credible reason to say so? And you would think at that point he would just walk away. He said, yes. Now it's getting interesting. Heightened alert. So he says, what's the credible reason? He said, look at that thing on his head. He's a Jew. And Jews are trouble. The TSA officer, I got to give him credit, handled it so professionally. He turned to the guy and he says, stop racial profiling. It's against the law. And he just like threw him away. And then he apologized to me. What does he have to apologize for? He did nothing wrong. If anything, he did everything right. So I'm sorry that there are people like that in the world. He was so nice and so polite. And I went through. Hashem has a sense of humor. An unbelievable sense of humor. How many flights did I leave Philadelphia at about 6:30 in the morning on a regular busy morning, on a Monday morning? I don't know exactly, but I'm assuming about one every minute, maybe even more than that. So an average flight is what, 200 people, 250 people, 150 people? I don't know the exact numbers, so I don't want to make up. Let's say 150, it's good enough. Times, who knows how many flights that are going out in the next hour and a half? I get onto a plane, I have a minhag to board last, because I don't like sitting on planes extra time. And one row behind me is this guy that was one row in front of me by the TSA. Wow. Machshemo. Hashem should forgive me. I should have worked on my midot and stayed quiet. But it was too early in the morning. I was tired and cranky. And I turned to him and I said, sir, I think you should get off the flight. And he says, why? I said, because you got a dangerous person on the plane. And I'm quoting you. Guy was quiet, he didn't respond. I guess at that point he already realized he's stupid. And then a few minutes into the flight, he did something that I was very surprised, and he came over and apologized. Very surprised. I didn't expect it at all. I expected more hate. And he said, yeah, I might have went overboard. But I watched too much news, and that's what bothers me. So now he's already starting a conversation. Okay, conversation, fine, let's talk. I said, let me hear what bothers you. Maybe I'll be your therapist over here in the air. So he tells me that he's Muslim. And he originates from, I don't remember where, but somewhere in one of the bordering countries to Israel. And the Israelis do this and that and the other. And he doesn't say the Israelis, the Jews. He includes all Jews into that. And therefore he hates Jews. And he saw something on TV the night before that even got him more upset than whatever, the humanitarian situation in Gaza, whatever. And therefore he said what he said. So I told him, sir, I didn't get upset at you. I thought you were nuts, I'm not going to lie to you, but I didn't get upset at you. You know why? Because you're just simply misinformed. You're just a simply misinformed person. It's not your fault. You don't know better. So he says, what do you mean? I said, I want to tell you a few things. I said, I'm a Syrian Jew. My grandfather lived in Syria and actually got along very, very well with his Muslim neighbors. On my mother's side, we have a little bit Moroccan blood. Her mother's father, her mother is Moroccan, father's Ashkenaz, Holocaust survivor, lived in Morocco, meaning my great-grandfather, and he was the Minister of Finance of Morocco, a Muslim country. I said, so we got no issues. I said, when you guys start bombing us and doing all these things, so, people have to defend themselves, what should they do? What should they do? He says, we don't bomb, we do the right thing. I said, right thing. Can make anything into an ideology today. It's that's the world today. I said, what's right about it? Let me hear. He says, first of all, we're just trying to get back our land. I said, your land? So tell me about your land a little bit. I want to hear about it. Do you have any historic evidence to that? I said, you guys call yourself the Palestinian nation. Is there anything in history about a Palestinian nation? It doesn't exist. Plishtim maybe. But other than that, there's no such thing. a group of refugees that came from different Muslim countries and decided to call yourself a nation. You don't exist. So that's number one. Number two, what's your land about it exactly? That 1900 years ago you stole it from us and we decided in 1948 to take it back? If you stole my car and I come tomorrow to take it back, so who's the crook over here? I said, number three, you want a little historic facts, scientific facts, so you can verify them, you don't have to trust me? Log on to Wi-Fi for $7 here in the air and check it right now live. I said, when you guys were in Israel for over 1,000 years, nothing. It was a desolate land. You did nothing with it. You couldn't even plant a tree. I said, when we came into Israel in 1948, and close to a third of our economy is agriculture, and built up a country. I said, why couldn't you even grow a tree? So you know why? Because in the Bible it says, in the Jewish Bible, it says that when the Jews won't live in Israel, then the land is going to be desolate. And you won't be able to grow anything. So do you need more evidence than that? I said, and last but not least, I'm going to give you a taste of your own poison. I said, how well do you know the Quran? He tells me, pretty well. Half an answer, pretty well. So with that pretty well, I understand everything already. So let me tell you something. You have a Quran on you? He says, no. I said, look at the difference between a Jew and you. So he says, what? I said, come, let me show you something. And I opened up my carry-on. And in my carry-on, I had tefillin, talit, a sidur, a tehillim, a gemara, Yabia Omer, the new volume that came out, and one other sefer. And by the way, one pair of clothes, one change of clothing. I said, let me see your carry-on, what you got inside. I said, look at the difference between the way we care about our religion and the way you... I said, but you have a way to bring up the Quran on your phone? He says, yeah, I have an app. I said, open it up. He says, why? I said, I want to show you something, because I do know the Quran. He says, you know the Quran? I said, yeah. He said, why? I said, because I have to deal with people like you. And I show him a quote in the Quran that says that the land of Israel belongs to the Jews forever and ever. I said, so your religion, your Bible, what you believe in, says that it's my land. And you went and called me a dangerous man for sticking to your religion. So I don't know, I got to think about it. That's known as, I'm too embarrassed to say I was wrong. Where does this come from? Same idea. Hayut tzarei al rosh. You want to be powerful? Go fight Israel. BDS, another comedy. They have nothing better to do with themselves. They're going to boycott Israel. I don't know if you ever saw the list of the Israeli technology in the world, but pretty much you can't use anything. Give up your phones, give up your computers, give up everything that you have. Most of your cars soon, all self-driving cars. Mobileye, right? That's going to be the technology that's being used as almost all the new self-guided aviation tools, half the military equipment of the world, and 35% of the cybersecurity of banks in the world, meaning the whole financial system can collapse in 30 seconds without Israel. And then. You want to boycott Israel? No problem. Go, give it all up. Give it all up. Huh? Give it all up. But what's the answer? These people have no life. They have nothing to do with themselves. So they have to feel like they're worth something. Hayut tzarei al rosh. So Chazal say, fight Israel, you'll be popular. And now you feel like you're worth something. You're an advocate. This is something that you stand for. And that's how they go. It's not a political sheer. My goal is not to talk politics. I couldn't care less. My goal is to tell us as Jews that when these lunatics talk the way they talk and behave the way they behave, we don't have to take it seriously at all. Just laugh it off. Don't get scared and don't worry and don't panic and all that. Chazal already predicted in advance that it's going to happen. And the same Chazal said, Hinei lo yanum v'lo yishan shomei Yisrael. Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to watch over us, and it's all a joke. There's no reason to have any fear of it. The whole Israel is one big ness. I don't think there's a great, if somebody wants to see a live miracle today, some people say, well, in the times of Egypt, they had miracles. Today we don't have miracles. I always answer to that one word, Israel. got a country of 7 million Jews and 1 million terrorists, and has some sort of citizenship, living in the same land, surrounded by 120 million terrorists, and they're here to say the story. And they're flourishing, and they have a booming economy and one of the lowest unemployment rates in the world, and a prediction of within 5 years being one of the wealthiest countries in the world per capita. How do you explain that? These terrorists around us, Yimach Shemam, they don't need bombs, they don't need anything. All they got to do is stand on the border of Israel and spit, and we all drown in their saliva. That's how many of them they are versus us, to put things into perspective. And Am Yisrael Chai V'Kayam, we're here to say the story, and we laugh at all of them all the time. We laugh at all of them all the time. Hashem gave Siyad D'Shmaya to the Israeli Mossad. They went into Iran, into their most secret places, took all their documents and brought them to Jerusalem. Technically, before Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, Iran moved their embassy to Jerusalem because all their documents are there anyway. B'derech HaTeva, does that make sense to be able to do such a thing? It makes no sense. This is something that even within the Iranian government most people didn't know about. It was the most hidden of the hidden. It was the Kodesh Kodashim of their stupidity. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Hayut Tzarei Alei Rosh. They're powerful because all day they're cursing out Israel. I'm going to show the Jews that they have nothing to worry about. They're going to go into their territory and take whatever they want from them. And they'll control them and do everything to them. It's a Dvar Pele. It's a big Chizuk in Emunah. So if this is what's going on when it comes to countries, when it comes to Klal Yisrael, when it comes to such great things, so no, a guy has a little problem, something's not working out, and he already starts panicking. What are you worrying about? Hashem proves himself every day, not that he has to, but and you could see it all day, every day, in such a big way. So now you're going to start getting worried about this. It'll be all right. Whatever all right means, but it'll be all right. It'll be the best way it should be for you. Hashem can do everything, but can't. There's a story from Abel Apia, and if I had to bet, I must have said it before here. And again, I want to give Agdamat to this just so nobody misunderstands. I have no agenda of whether girls should marry learning boys or working boys. Each one has a different thing that's right for them, and each one should do what's right for them. But Rabbi Yapian had a boy that was in yeshiva, and at a certain point the boy came to him and told him that he wants to go out to college. Today a lot of girls on their list of demands for a husband is that he has a college degree. So Abel Yapian knew that this boy some boys should go to college. It's very good for them. It's the best thing for them, get an education. But this guy had potential to be a big Talmud Chacham. So for that, we don't have to take him out of yeshiva. So Abel asked the boy, who said you're going to wake up tomorrow morning? Imagine you went into Rosh Yeshiva and told him you want to go out to school and you ask him for a blessing or something, and his answer to you is, who says you're going to wake up tomorrow morning? I would panic. That sounds like almost like you got a curse, right? So he said, Hashem Yazo. And he said, and who says if you wake up you're going to be able to see? He said, Hashem Yazo. And who said you'll be able to talk? Hashem Yazo. Who says you'll be able to think? Hashem Yazo. Who says you'll be able to move? Hashem Yazo. And who says you'll be able to find a college that'll accept you? Maybe they won't want you. Hashem Yazo. And who says when you go to college you'll pass? Maybe you'll fail straight through. Hashem Yazo. And who says even after you get a degree, you'll be able to find a job? So many people got degrees and weren't able to find jobs. Hashem Yazo. And like this he keeps on asking, who says if you make a job you'll actually get paid? Maybe the company will go bankrupt. Hashem Yazo. And who says if you get paid, the money won't have to go to medical bills and you'll actually be able to enjoy the money and use it? Hashem Yazo. And who says you'll find a wife? Hashem Yazo. And who says you'll get married? Hashem Yazo. And on and on and on, you get the idea. So Abel smiles to him and he says, so Hashem could help that you should wake up in the morning. Hashem can help that you should see, that you should think, that you should speak, that you should be able to get into a school, that you should be able to study, that you should be able to pass your test, that you should be able to graduate, that you should be able to find a job, that you should be able to make money, that you should be able to hold on to it, that you should be able to use it, that you should be able to find a wife, have children, build a family, and then have expenses that for this you're doing this whole cycle for. But Hashem can't send you a few dollars when you need it one day. Suddenly over there he goes handicapped. All that he's able to do, but suddenly here he goes handicapped. And the boy never left yeshiva. It's a chizuk in emunah. We all face hard times every single day, myself included. Life's not easy. There's very, very hard times. There's big nisyan. If the Amoraim said about the days of Mashiach, they don't want to be alive in these days because of the tsar and tzarot that are going to be, so what should we say, such simple people? So obviously there's big test today. Big tests. This one with panos, the other one with shidduchim, the other one with health, the other one with the other thing. There's no end. And a person can today be healthy and tomorrow suddenly find out the word. There's really no end. So some people get nervous and anxious and depressed and they live in paranoia. And other people have a normal life. What's the difference? How they look at it. One person looks at it as the same as Rebbeinu made the sunshine and the rain and everything. Today he made the sunshine and then the rain and then the sunshine again and then the rain. And, it went back and forth today. It was an interesting, the weather forecast suffered from a personality disorder today. But that he could do. And the world could run. But to solve your little situation, suddenly there, Hashem, no, handicap. Can't be. And this is the basic chizuk and emunah that a person has to have in every situation. Obviously, it's a lot easier said than done. Let's be clear about that. But at least if we say it, there's a chance one day we'll do it. If we don't say it, there's no chance that we'll ever do it. So let's go back to our question. Hakadosh Baruch Hu gives a promise, a commandment to the Jews: don't fight with Moab. And Balak comes and tells the Moabim, we got to go get the Jews because otherwise they're going to fight with us. How did that sell? How did that sell? So, based on this question, we could use one question to answer the other. In the Sefer HaKadosh Nefesh Chaya, that was written by Rabbi Rafael Kadir, Zecher Tzadik V'Chas Yagen Aleinu. So he writes over there an interesting thing. It's a little bit Kabbalistic. In the world there's a concept, and definitely late at night I don't like talking about it, so we'll just say it in one word, called reincarnations. And reincarnations can happen in many different ways. Amongst them, it doesn't have to be in other people, it can be in animals, it can be in trees, and so on. Rabbeinu Ari writes, the reason why the Torah has a commandment not to go back to Egypt is because there's no more souls in Egypt. So there's nothing to do there anymore, because the only reason why a Jew goes somewhere is to do a tikkun for something. There's no tikkunim to do in Egypt anymore, and therefore Hashem said you can't go back to Egypt. It's a waste of time. You have nothing to do. That's why by the tzaddikim, I once witnessed Rabbeinu Agadol, Rabdon Segal Shlita, Hashem Shekhem Muflash Zeiman, a long life. Once when he flew special on a private plane from New York to Toronto to meet Zecher Tzadik Levacha, Moshe Reichman, who was a big Baal Tzedakah and a big tzaddik. And on the way back, he asked the pilot to fly over the Niagara Falls. And it was weird. Abdon is completely secluded from the world in every way, shape, and form. That's what's important, to fly over the Niagara Falls. And that, on a low altitude, was almost impossible. They had to pull political connections from here to the sky and turn, there were a lot of people involved in order to make this work. But he insisted that he has to fly over the Niagara Falls. So afterwards, somebody who was with him asked him, a close friend of mine from Flatbush, he told him, Rebbe, you don't do things for no reason. You allowed us to waste an extra hour in Toronto once we were done, so they should be able to make the phone calls to make the arrangements. And on top of that, this wasn't a cheap ordeal to arrange either. And on top of that, what was the big deal? What was so important about the Niagara Falls? So he told them there's two reasons why I wanted to go. He said one reason is there's a Rambam that says that if you want to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there are many ways, but one of the many ways to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitoch shitbonen b'niflotav, through seeing the wonders of nature and understanding, look what Hashem made in the world, that brings a person closer to Hashem and adds a feeling of connection and love to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And he said, I heard that the Niagara Falls is one of the 7 wonders of creation, so I wanted to be able to see it to get more kirvat Hashem, to be Mekayim this Rambam. That was reason number 1. Reason number 2 that he said was a big musa. Big musa. He said, plenty from Jews go to Niagara Falls, right? I went many times, I'm sure all of you went, and if not, go, why not? It's a nice place to go to. Ben Azmanim, it looks like a yeshiva over there. It's a relatively affordable trip, and everybody goes. And the weather's a little better. So he says, but when a person comes to Niagara Falls, what does he do? Wow. He's blown away, right? Takes out his phone, takes a few pictures. Or if he has a kosher phone, takes out a camera, takes a few pictures. Some people don't know what a camera is anymore. That's what he does. He said, but that's not why Hashem sends somebody to a place like this. Hashem sends somebody to a place like this in order that when he comes there, he should say, Perek Tehillim. He says to him, Yizmor Todah. And through the Perek Tehillim, the nitzotzot of Kedusha that are in the water and in everything that's there, go up to Shamayim and come to their tikkun. And who knows how many Jews were here by the falls and didn't say a Perek Tehillim. And in Shamayim, that's a big tviyah in Am Yisrael. So I wanted to go over the falls to say a few Prakim at Tehillim, so it should be Mesakin the Neshamas inside. Unbelievable thing. So, Avifal Kadir, Tzavan was his last name, Zechat Tzadik Devacha, says, based on this idea, amazing thing. He says, we eat fish on Shabbat. Some people are very OCD about that. They eat fish every meal on Shabbat. There are some poskim that say to do it that way. The main time, according to the Kabbalah, to eat fish is in Sudar Shlishit. That's the most important. But some people do all the meals. Hashem, why not? Beautiful. And there are many poskim that agree to that idea. But why fish? We already eat meat, and why fish? Why did we add the fish? So the Sfarim HaKadoshim write, because the souls of tzaddikim, if they have to come back to the world, they come back in fish. And therefore, we eat fish on Shabbat because it brings a tikkun to the souls of the tzaddikim that are inside the fish, kosher fish. Yeah, that's why. Tzaddik, Shabbat, it equals, that's why it's on Shabbat we eat fish. Fine. So animals we could eat. But in the olden days, I know today it's different already because of wheatgrass. But up until wheatgrass came around and people decided it's healthy, and I'm not saying it's not, it might actually have a lot of health benefits. People didn't eat grass, animals ate grass. So what happens if there's an neshama that went into the grass? How's he ever going to get a tikkun? So it says an unbelievable thing over here. In the Sefer Nefesh Chaya he writes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes that a kosher cow will eat that grass, and that's how he got his livelihood. And then it'll be slaughtered, and it'll come onto the table of a religious family for Friday night dinner, or for Siyum HaSechet, or for something like that. And like that, the neshama that was in the grass went into the cow, and now the cow went into the Jew, and the Jew did a tikkun for the cow, and he ate l'shem shamayim, and the neshama goes to its tikkun in Gan Eden. Unbelievable thing. Based on this, he says, now honestly it's hard to understand that Balak knew so much Kabbalah and ideas, but based on this he says, that's the pshat in the pasuk. He said, yeah, I know Hashem told the Jews that they can't fight with us. But what's going to happen? What's going to happen is the Jews are going to take over a different nation because they're a powerful army. They have God with them. And then they're going to send the other nation to fight with us because God only said they can't fight with us. And we're going to get swallowed in like the grass in the cow. And we'll end up losing our power. That's what he said. Just like they work out their tikkunim through cows eating grass, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to eat another nation, and the other nation will come eat us, and then we'll be gone. So at the beginning, Moab wasn't scared of the Jews at all. And therefore, they didn't need a melech, they didn't need nothing. So Balak had no power. Then Balak went and turned the agenda to convince them that there's a problem, and now he's coming with a solution. It almost sounds like if any of us would go for a full screening of health from beginning to end, A to Z, they're going to find some problem, right? Nobody's perfectly healthy. If you look for problems, you find them. I'll make it even simpler. If you wake up in the morning and do the stupidest thing in the world, and you should always promise yourself never to do this, and think, how do I feel today? I promise you're going to have a bad day. That's the science of the world. If you have an emotional thermometer, you're a dead duck. You have no chance of surviving. How do I feel today? Am I happy? Am I sad? Just live normal. Stop thinking. This is the way the world works. If you look for problems, If I walk into any business and go through the books, you always find a problem. God forbid, Shalom Nida, only on the Sonei Israel. If the IRS came and ordered it anybody, even if he has spick and span on the books, everything, they'll still create a problem. Even if the problem doesn't exist. They'll make one up because of their ego. So why do they do that? First you create a problem, and now we got to solve the problem. So you're a hero, you solved the problem. That's what Balak did. There was no problem with the Jews. The Jews weren't fighting with Moab. Everything was going to be fine. He said, let's create an issue, and then we're going to go and say that we got to find a solution for that issue. And I'll say I have the solution. Through that I'll get power. Boom, he got his way. He has what he wants. Who did he pick as a partner? A lowlife that thought the same way as him. Bilam had it made in life. He was a prophet on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Pasuk says that there was never a prophet amongst the Jews like Moshe Rabbeinu. And Chazal learned out, by the Jews there wasn't, but by the Goyim there was, Bilam. Why? Because God didn't want the nations of the world to be able to say, if we would have had a prophet as great as Moshe, then we would have done the right thing. So to avoid that accusation, we made Bilam this great prophet. So he has a high level of prophecy, and what does he use his prophecy for? To fight with a donkey. Right? That's what the Torah says. It means you can give somebody the greatest thing in the world, and if he doesn't know what to do with it, or he doesn't know how to use it, not only is it not going to help him, it's going to work against him. It's going to be the worst thing in the world for him. They gave Bilam prophecy, but Bilam also had one other thing, Tsar Ayin. He was a stingy person. Not only stingy, he couldn't see somebody else being more successful than him or having something that he didn't have. Somebody who compares himself to others or bases his life off what some social norm is going to be a miserable soul his whole life. And here I want to quote an Orach Chaim HaKodesh that many, many years ago I put out a CD, when CD still existed. That was the most popular CD out of all the CDs that we ever had. Baruch Hashem, over the years we put out millions, literally millions of CDs, many millions actually. But there was normally one topic. How many CDs is there demand for? The whole Jewish world is not that many people. So if it's a very popular topic, like what are the popular topics? Dating, panasa, ainara, these type of things. So 100,000, 50,000, 100,000, maybe. That's like a crazy number. That's ratings that make no sense. There was one CD in my whole life that we did over 250,000 of. Way more than that. It was an amazing thing. Every time, and we never believed it was a regular shiur in Parashat Vayigash. There was nothing to it. So originally they always used to put out 5,000. And then if there was demand, they would make more. It was 5,000. And then some guy calls and says, make 25,000 and he'll sponsor. Like this, the numbers went and went and went. This CD was called Problem Solved. The CD was based on one chidush from the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. And because the Yotzai was today, I want to say this chidush and puzzle it into what we just said. And you'll walk away with something beautiful. And this week I won't kill you like last week. You'll be done in 2 minutes. Last week was the longest year ever. I gotta give you credit. Everybody stayed and that. Nobody hates me and they came back and that. Woo! Ashrechem Yisrael. But this week I'm doing tshuva. Anyway, the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says an amazing thing. He says, why is it that Shevet Levi didn't have to work in Egypt? The other tribes slaved in Egypt. So really, in the Zohar it says that they also slaved. Instead of building, they were learning. And that goes back with what I started with the army. I have the privilege to speak in many military bases in Israel over the years. And whenever they start with the stupid attack of why don't you serve in the army, I always tell them, let's make a deal. For every one of you that comes to yeshiva and learns in Ponovich 12, 14 hours a day, I send one boy to Golani. And never yet was there one guy who agreed to change, because they also know it's a lot harder to learn in yeshiva. Their service is 3 years at the most, now it's even shorter. They get paid, not much, a joke amount for it, and then they go to India and get high for a year. That's more or less the minhag, or South America. Our service starts when we're 3 years old, not 18 years old, and goes until 120. Which one is harder to commit to? Theirs is a few hours a week with weekends off and this and that and the other. A few hours a day. And ours is unlimited. Ve'agita bo yomam v'layla. There is no time off. Ben Azmanim is not vacation. Yeshiva boys don't have vacation. Ben Azmanim is because it's biological needs of rest. So God gave time to rest, which is a mitzvah, just like it's to learn if it's done for the purpose of learning. But that's where it starts and ends. And we learn Ben Azmanim also as usual. Comes the Achaim HaKadosh and says, but lemaaseh, the Shvatim would get beaten physically, and Shevet Levi wasn't. Why was Shevet Levi a privileged character? So Achaim HaKadosh says a big chidush, big chidush. You have to see it inside. In that speech I quoted it word for word inside. Tonight I won't, but I'm going to show you the pasuk. When it says that God told Yaakov Avinu to bring down his kids to Egypt, and Yaakov knew that this was the beginning of exile. He knew that the beginning of the trouble was starting. So it says over there in the pasuk an interesting thing. Let's just find the pasuk. First Yosef sent Yaakov a message to come down, and he promised him everything and so on. And then Yaakov told his kids, it's a good, we have to go, and everybody should join. And the pasuk says like this. This is in Vayigash, Perek Mem Vav, pasuk Zayin. Banav ubnei banav ito, benotav ubnot banav v'chol zaro hivi ito Mitzrayim. Let's translate. Banav, his children, ubnei banav, and his grandchildren, ito, he took with him. Benotav, his daughters, ubnot banav, and his grandsons' daughters, v'chol zaro, and all his children, hivi ito Mitzrayim, he brought with him to Egypt. Chaim HaKadosh, zchutei Yagen aleinu. He asks a very simple question. Doesn't this pasuk sound very repetitious? Should have just said, Banav ubnei banav hivi ito Mitzrayim, and Lashon HaKodesh, banav doesn't only mean boys. It means girls too. Zachar or nekiva is the way we differentiate in Lashon HaKodesh male and female. Banim atem la'Hashem Elokechem. That's not boys. Everybody's called banim. So it should have just said, Banav hivi ito Mitzrayim. You want to say grandchildren also? Banav ubnei banav. Case closed. So Chaim HaKadosh says over there an interesting lashon. He says it seems to him to say a big chidush. And if the Chaim didn't say this, it would be also to say it. It's such a big chidush. So Chaim said it b'ruach HaKodesh. He said there were two segments in the Shvatim. Yaakov called all his sons and told them, we're going down to Egypt. And he says, I'm not going to give you lies. At the beginning it's going to be really good. We're going to have a good life. And after that it's all going to turn into hell. It's going to be hard and we're going to suffer and there's going to be a lot of struggle. But this is the Gzeirat Hashem, that we have to go down to Mitzrayim for 400 years. Most of the Shvatim, everybody agreed to go. God says we go. But most of the Shvatim, Alavai, we could have done something else instead to get out of this Gzeirah. There was one Shevet that went willingly. That was Shevet Levi. He says that's why the pasuk says that. Banav ubnei banav ito. There was one child and his grandchildren from him that came with him, that their heart was really with him. They naturally said, yeah, Hashem said, go, that's it, no questions. Benotav uvnot banav v'chol zaro hevi ito Mitzrayim. But the rest of them, he had to bring them with him to Egypt, meaning he had to tell him there's a tzivui Hashem, and now you have to come whether you like it or not. Comes the Chaim HaKadosh and writes these words, Ki sama di surei kibule, because the medicine for all suffering is acceptance. And when a person accepts something, he no longer suffers. And if that's the case, he says, Shevet Levi that accepted the fact that they're going down to suffer didn't have to suffer anymore. And that's why they were secluded from everything. The rest of the Shvatim that didn't accept it, whatever that means, Lefi Madrikatam, they had Shibud Mitzrayim Koshi Shibud. What does that mean? What is jealousy? Let's understand this for once and for all. Jealousy is multiple sicknesses in one. Number one, that I think that I deserve better. Who said? Based on what? I don't know. What does? Number two, that I think that it's not fair that he has more than me. Why not? Who decided? Based on... Number three, now that he has more than me, I feel even worse about myself. So it's 3 strikes in a row. 3 mistakes. The one mistake, And what does that lead to? To hate and to this. Hashem Yerachim, what happens from jealousy there? There's no end. Jealousy could destroy lives and families and people, and it could destroy anything good. There's no end to what it could destroy. Of course, be'etzim, every person should be careful not to take anybody's eyes out, because we don't want to cause others lifnei to be jealous. But beyond that, be'etzim, so the other guy has a $200,000 car and you have a $4,000 car. So what? Who cares? Who cares? A guy told me an unbelievable thing. There's some cool guy in my neighborhood who was telling me one day that he's driving into New York. Now he has a minivan that's not a minivan, a car that's 1990 something. I don't remember what year exactly, but in the 90s still. And I think I don't know if he has a key, because I think the way he gets the car to start is by saying some tehillim or something. Because b'derech hateva, this car shouldn't. He tells me he's going into Brooklyn. And why is he telling me he's going into Brooklyn? He says, I know you go in a lot to Brooklyn. It's a shame to go in two cars. We'll go in one car. I thought he wanted a ride for me. So I told him I happen to be going into, not Brooklyn, further, Queens, but I can drop you off in Brooklyn on the way. Let's take my car. He says, no, why should we take your car? What's wrong with my car? I guess it's because I'd rather get there. Just a technical issue. Tells me all these fancy cars, shtuyot. Doesn't help anybody anything. You know, when Hashem wants to send you a dagger in his heart, he's going to do it. I went into his car. It was definitely an experience. Listen, it's very fancy. Your whole body gets a massage from beginning to end, because the transmission shakes so much and everything shakes over there. It was a real experience, no? Unbelievable. You can't talk Lashon Hara because it's so loud you can't talk at all. You just stay quiet the whole time. There's a lot of benefits in this. And we're driving down the Garden State Parkway, and I'm really thinking inside, I hope we make it there. Hope. And as we're driving down the Garden State Parkway, he points to the side of the road. There was a car pulled over on the side. And I don't know exactly the names of all the cars, but I know the name of the brand. I don't know which model, but it looked like a big fancy one, a Mercedes on the side of the road. And the guy had 2 flat tires. And he looks at me and he says, I don't know what a car like that costs, but probably $100,000. My car I bought for $800. He says, and I'm driving, and he stopped. He says, you see what's going on here? Does he see what's going on here? He says, I'm driving, he stopped. It's a Musa. That means if Hashem wants you to get somewhere, you're going to get there. This way, that way, you'll get there. Hashem doesn't want you to get somewhere, you don't get there. It doesn't make a difference the rest on the way. All the rest is all a Mensch tracht und Gott lacht. Man thinks and God laughs. And he has a good sense of humor, let me tell you. When you think like that, life becomes easier. It really does. Suddenly it's not your fault, and it's not in your control. We're always busy second guessing ourselves. If I would have done this instead of that, then if I would have, then that. If. There is no if. If you did something, it's because there are a bunch that wanted you to do that, period. So there is no second guess. It's done. Over. Next. And suddenly you live like a mensch. Live peacefully. You never look back. One of the worst things to do is to be constantly looking back. There's no end to that. There's no end to that. I spoke to somebody on the phone one day this week that has in him heavy feelings against a family member because 17 years ago that person did something to them, ki'ilu. Honestly, I said, I'm sorry, I'm busy, and I hung up the phone because I knew if I would respond, it's going to be harsh. I couldn't control myself. I said, you're going to destroy your life because 17 years ago somebody made a comment to you that you didn't like? You're going to live with animosity? You're going to carry that weight and that pain for for what? And then second of all, that person never did anything. That Hashem wanted you to suffer. That he sent the shliach, and that person was the shliach. In Shamayim, they'll go after that person and cause the Jew to suffer is a terrible thing, but that's the end of it. So for what? So they have all these coaching courses today, and people get private life coaches, and then there's this fantasy people like Robbins and all these other clowns that think that they're going to teach you how to be Superman, and this and that. All the dimyonot. At the end of the day, in a moment of truth, you try it and it doesn't work, and you're back to square one, and now you're worse than square one because you tried something and it didn't work. So I'm even worse off. The one thing that never failed anybody is a little emunah. Because if it worked the way you wanted it to work, see, it's very easy to smile. And if it didn't work the way you wanted it to work, you're still smiling because that also Hashem wanted. So you can never go wrong. One way or the other, you always win. So out of all the coaching and help and this and self-help and life motivation, if you go into Barnes & Nobles and see how big the section of motivational books are, it just goes on and on and on and on. It looks like everybody who has nothing to do with themselves writes a motivational book. Once I said, listen, I got to give it a shot. I got to try one or two of them. I don't know, after 3 pages, you're like, oh, are you really selling some sort of do you believe even in what you wrote? One of the greatest motivational booksellers of all times committed suicide himself. Yeah, it's not a joke. I wish it was a joke. It's not a joke. Yeah. And the way he justified it in his suicide letter, he wrote that he taught the world ultimate freedom, and ultimate freedom is to be allowed to give your own life away, or something stupid like that. Shugan of a kitzur, no, not case. What was he missing? A little brains, that's for sure. But what else? A tiny drop of an outlook of emunah. A tiny drop of a thinking of emunah. And we have to go back to the basics, and this we try to go every week, because if every single week we drill it in, hopefully we'll one day get to it. We have to pick where we stand in life. Is there a God or not? It's a yes or no question. If there's a God, he runs the world and he knows what he's doing. Leave it up to him. And if you don't leave it up to him and you think you run the world, then you don't believe in God. It's that simple. There's nothing in the middle. There's no gray area in this field. The Muslim knows what he's doing. He did everything successfully for so many years. He doesn't need your help. He doesn't need your advice. He's just fine without you. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it's uncomfortable, and that's what Ishet Re'eh Yazor L'Achiv Yamal Chazak. We have to be supportive of each other and show a lot of love and affection to each other, especially in this generation that needs it more than ever. And that goes without saying, of course. To give chizuk and to always be b'achdut, and that's the way Hashem made the world. But beyond that, Bilam wanted to say that he can control the world. Hashem sent a donkey. He said even the donkey knows better than you. His own donkey started talking to him. Chazal say one of the things that was created Erev Shabbat Bein Hashmashot was Piaton, the mouth of the donkey of Bilam. Why did God have to create the mouth of the donkey of Bilam? That's what was important to create the last day of creation. It was so important, this donkey. The answer is yeah. Because the donkey wasn't talking to Bilam. It was Hashem talking through the donkey to Klal Yisrael forever. Telling Klal Yisrael that even a donkey understands that there's a reason why you should or shouldn't. And why the Rebbeinu Shalom said what he said. And just remember that when you start challenging, you lessened yourself from even a donkey. So that was the seal. Erev Shabbat Bein Hashmashot. When Hashem sealed creation, before Shabbat Vayinafash, he sealed it with that statement. He said, I made the world to perfection, everything's tov ma'od, and that's it, case closed. That's where it begins, and that's where it ends. Unbelievable thing. Unbelievable thing. And over the years, and we merited to see, and we should never have to merit to see such painful things, but it's painful things that teach us emunah of so many people, righteous people, that saw the greatest tragedies ever, including Toshei Eliyah and Holocaust survivors, that there's still some alive. Hashem should give them long lives still. Not that many left, but whoever's alive. Kloisenberg Rebbe said, if you want a bracha, don't go running to tzaddikim, go to any Holocaust survivor. Kiss the same time to give you a blessing. It's the greatest blessing you'll ever get. After what they went through and seen and been through, they were able to stay Jewish, forget Orthodox, even just Jewish, and not go and say we're going to a different religion. That makes them tzaddikim right there. And how many of them live with such emunah and with and built empires of Torah and avodah and families and whatnot. Unbelievable. And lahavdil, years later today, on a much smaller scale, but when Klal Yisrael has all its suffering, whether it's cancer patients, Shalom Nida, Hashem should send to Sonei Yisrael, but there's so many of them. Just ask RCCS, which is a wonderful, wonderful organization that I always give plugs to, that helps so many countless Jews in amazing ways, how busy they are. I wish they weren't so busy. And just walking through the aisles of the hospitals and seeing what's going on, and to see the emunah that these people have, and the way they accept it, and the way they accept the Gzerat Hashem, and the way they don't, Kisama di Yisui Kibule. Kisama di Yisui Kibule doesn't mean that that's it, the problem goes away. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Kisama di Yisui Kibule means that if your mind, you think like a mensch, if you think in a positive way, then you won't feel the pain. The illness might stay, but the pain you won't feel. You'll live a normal life. Afa Pike. Unbelievable thing. So we daven, Hashem should help, that we should really be able to see life in that perspective, and we should be able to see life in a positive light, to have a happy life and a healthy life, and we should be zochet to be ad goel b'meirav yameinu, amen ve'amen.